The number one mistake that Christian business people make is that they violate the second commandment. By the same token, the number one thing that Christian business people can do in order to become successful is to learn how to treat others the way that they want to be treated themselves. If you want to learn how to walk in favor with God and man, then this video is for you. Transforming your business from struggling to success and from success to significance. I often get asked to speak on the number one thing that business people can do to be successful and start walking in favor. When I do, I like to talk about the second commandment and what it means to satisfy it. So let's talk about the second commandment. In Matthew 22, verses 35 to 39, a scribe asked Jesus, "What is the greatest commandment?" And Jesus replied by saying, "The greatest commandment is this, that you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, and with all your strength. And the second is like it, that you shall love your neighbor as yourself. On these two depend the law and the prophets." But I like the way that Jesus says it better in Matthew 7, verse 12, when he says, "In everything, treat people the way that you want to be treated yourself. For this is the law and the prophets." So when he says, "For this is the law and the prophets," or "this depends the problem on the prophets," what he's saying is that all the commandments in the Old Testament can be summarized in two commandments, what we refer to as the love commandments, that you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, and all your strength, and you shall love your neighbor as yourself. Or better way to put it, that you shall treat other people the way that you want to be treated yourself. Everything is fulfilled when we do that. Notice that it doesn't say we are to treat other people the way they have treated us. It says we are to treat other people the way we want them to treat us. The number one mistake that Christian business people commit is that they do not treat others the way they want to be treated themselves. This includes their business partners, their employees, their customers, their prospects, their vendors. So let's look at some practical examples of this and how to correct it. In the business deal world, we often talk about the concept of win-win negotiating. I win, you win. If in order to be a win-win deal, we both must win. But what I've seen is that we actually don't have win-win negotiation. What we have is I win, hopefully you're going to win, or I really don't care if you win. I figure you're a big boy or girl, you will figure out how to win in this deal. And if you sign it, then man, you must feel it's a win-win for you. That's not the same as win-win negotiation. What we need to do is to make sure our business partners are taken care of in the deal. We need to love them so much that we're ensure that they win as well as us. Yeah, hey, Bob, will this work for you? Are you sure? If we do this and it works out the way we're talking about it, are you going to feel like you've been taken care of? If not, this is the time to talk about that. We need to make sure that they're truly happy with this, because if they don't, and it ends up being a bad deal for them, here's what happens. They're going to badmouth you around town. Other people, you're going to have a reputation. People are going to know that you're somebody to stay away from. What even worse is that these same people that got screwed in a business deal, they're going to want to get back with you later on the next deal. If there is a next deal, they're not only going to want to make sure that they win, they're going to want to make sure that they make up for the loss that they had on the first deal. Therefore, you need to make sure that every deal you do with people is truly a win-win. You want to have people that look forward to doing business with you again. And secondly, the second way where they violate the second commandment is in contracts. We often give them contracts that we ourselves wouldn't sign. And I know where this comes from. This is coming from attorneys that are writing contracts and agreements that are so ridiculously one-sided. I don't know if I should laugh or cry when I see it. Oftentimes, I've been given a business deal or signed by a Christian brother or sister, and I'll read it, and it is so bad, it is so ridiculous that it's easy to get angry and offended. And oftentimes, I've gone back to them and say, Bob, Mary, would you sign this contract? And the typical response I'll get is, no, Jeff, you don't understand. This is for you to sign. And I'll say, no, I get that. You want me to sign this. But my question is, if the roles were reversed, would you sign this? If I gave you this contract to sign, would you sign it? And invariably, they'll come around to, no, they wouldn't. So I tell them, well, if in that case, why would you give it to me to sign? Why would you expect me to sign it? Now, the third way we violate the second commandment is our employees. First off, we hold them to standards and levels of performance that we don't do ourselves. We want them to show up early, we want them to stay late, and yet we violate that ourselves. In the body of Christ, in the kingdom, leaders are treated with a higher level of scrutiny than the rank and file is. So we need to be, sure that we're leading by example. We need to make sure that we're doing the things that we want our employees to do. Here's a challenge. If you're a company and you have an employee handbook or policy manual, pull it out sometime and ask yourself, are you following this policy manual, this employee handbook, the way your employees want to? And if not, there you go, the second commandment. Next, we're not relational. We tend to hire people and treat them like vendors. They're the person who sells us coffee. They're the person who builds our deck, paints our walls. We hire them and that's it. Well, that's not the way the kingdom works. The kingdom is very relational. We need to make sure if we're not treating them like children, we at least treat them like family members or the people across the street from us, our neighbors. We need to at least treat them that well. That we need to make sure that we're taking care of them. We need to make sure we understand what's going on in their life. And what happens is when we don't, they don't stick around, and then we're surprised. If you want to, keep these people, start treating them like you treat your neighbor next door. We need to give them honest feedback, whether they're doing good or bad. We need to be honest with them instead of waiting to the very end when we either fire them or they quit, and then we tell them the truth. That's not right. They deserve to know. A lot of times when they leave or they get fired, you start telling them all the things that are bad about them. This is the first time they're hearing about it. And that's not fair. That's not right. So we need to be thick-skinned, and we need to be able to give them honest feedback during the course of their tenure with us, good and bad. The last thing, we don't have long-term plans for our employees. We hire them, and it's almost like we marry our spouse and say, honey, I love you. If things change, I'll let you know. But just assume I continue to love you. And that's the way we treat our employees. That doesn't work, and then we're surprised when they leave. What we need to do is make sure when we hire them, they understand where we see them fitting in. Mary, we're going to start you here, but I see that maybe in 6 months or so, once you learn this job, we can move you over to this thing here. It's going to be more challenging, more responsibility, but also better pay. And from there, we can talk about moving you over into another area. When we start showing them that we have long-term plans for them, they'll start sticking around long-term. But when we don't, and we just give an assignment and assume they're going to come in and do it every day until they die or we die, or we got to go out of business, well, guess what? They'll leave, and you'll be shocked that they left. What about our customers? We sell and run. We give them a product or service, and we never follow up on it. How was this? How was the experience? Did you enjoy it? Is there some way it could have been better? Where were you getting this service or product before us? What did they do well? What didn't they do well? We don't want to ask these questions for fear that somebody would say, well, you're right, this wasn't a good deal and I want my money back or something else. But the truth is, if we would nurture these relationships with the customers, what we would find out is that they'll stick with us long term. Let's start treating them the way we want to be treated ourselves as a customer. Then there's accounts payable. This is the one I love the most. I've never been to Harvard Business School, but what I figured out is the first rule they teach you there. You collect your money as fast as you can, and you pay your bills as slowly as you can. Well, that's not the kingdom, and that requires no faith at all. What we need to do is pay people the way we want to be paid ourselves, as fast as possible, and believe that God will bring in our money as fast as possible too. When we start treating other people the way we want to be treated, what we're going to see is God's going to show up to make sure that we're covered in all our payments. And when we can't make a payment, we can't meet the terms of the agreement that we made, we need to go to him with hat in hand and explain the situation. I know I owe you something at the end of the week, but that's not going to happen. But I think I can have it a week later, and hopefully that'll be okay. When we start communicating with them, the trust will go up, and we'll start treating people the way we want to be treated ourselves. If you're looking for more examples of how to maintain the second commandment, and examples of how people violate it, take a look at chapters 2 and 4, the love and honor chapters in my book, Kingdom Business Success. The link is provided below. The natural tendency for all of us in the flesh to push back. If somebody pushes you, you want to push them back. If somebody hurts you, you want to hurt them back. Whatever they did to you, especially in a negative way, we want to do that to them. Well, that's not the kingdom of heaven. That's not the second commandment. We need to bless and not curse. We need to edify and not tear down. Mercy is given to those who are merciful. Forgiveness is given to those who forgive. Understanding is given to those who have been understanding. Forgive and forget, lest not the root of bitterness grow. And I also want to mention that this principle, the second commandment, this is not karma. What karma would say is that if I keep treating people the way I want to be treated myself, they will start treating me the way I want to be treated. Well, that works to a certain extent, but it doesn't work overnight. Those people that are not paying you on time, those people that are not honoring you or treating you right, they won't change overnight. I pretty much guarantee it. In time, yes. If you're expecting that you're going to start doing the right thing and everybody's going to start doing the right thing overnight, you will be disappointed and you'll be angry and bitter and you'll stop obeying the second commandment. That's why I want you to know this is not karma. But this is a proven guarantee. This is God's way. This is the kingdom way. This is the way of faith. When you start treating people the same way that you want to be treated yourself, you will see open windows of heaven. You'll start walking in favor with God and man. But more importantly, you'll be doing business His way.